Sometimes you find something in a video game that makes you think, what the f? I'm gonna pretend I didn't see that. This is why today we're diving into the 10 most disturbing images found in video games. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. Thanks to Scratchy McNuts for submitting this discovery through Oddheader.com. There's no end to the madness in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, with one of the biggest mysteries being whether the bucket you must carry to complete the game's many endings is just a bucket, something else entirely, or another troll from developer William Pugh. And while solving this mystery is definitely on the Oddheader bucket list, players looking in the data of the game managed to find a discovery that gave them even more questions, as when the player picks up the bucket, it's sitting on a cushion on a pedestal. Evidently, not even this cushion is normal, as in the files of the game, there's a texture named Royal Pillow Beautiful Sexy Damn. The texture shows both sides of the cushion, with a random secret agent saying, "Don't tell them I showed you this," signed by Dom. Likely the game's art director Dominic Johan. Dom shows us on the underside of the cushion, you can see the faint image of a gray face if you look at it closely. Turning the brightness all the way up, we can see the image more clearly, though it's not quite beautiful or sexy like the file name claims. Some players believe the face looks like an edited version of Ben Drowned, the infamous creepypasta about the ghost of a boy named Ben haunting a Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask cartridge, and now the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe apparently. Honestly, if Ben Drowned showed up in the Stanley Parable, it'd be far from the weirdest thing to happen in this game. Half-Life. By the time the original Half-Life released in 1998, it was already one of the most talked about releases in gaming history. And in fact, Half-Life was so hyped that some players pretended to be journalists in order to get a copy of the game's Day 1 demo. However, fans impressed by the Day 1 demo would have been even more surprised about a secret hidden in the data, as in the files of the demo, data miners found an unused photo of a male pierced nipple. I definitely don't remember this being anywhere in Half-Life. The image is in a folder titled Zeno, which contains textures using the levels that take place in Zen, an interdimensional location studied by the Black Mesa scientists where the aliens that invade the facility come from. Was a shirtless G-Man with his nipples pierced supposed to appear at the end of the game? Maybe it's for the better we don't find out the answer. SWAT 4. Thanks to Bird for submitting this discovery on the Oddheader Discord. SWAT 4 released in 2005, where as expected you lead a SWAT team taking down suspects in a variety of missions, though one of the game's missions features a sly hidden reference to something else that's rather suspect. As in the A-Bomb nightclub area of the game, there's a poster on the wall of K. Relly, which appears to be a pretty obvious parody of the singer R. Kelly. The poster also uses the same pun Kendrick Lamar used to diss a different rapper 19 years later in Not Like Us. Strike a chord and it's probably A minor. The pun on this poster is likely referencing R. Kelly, K. Relly's illegal marriage to singer Aaliyah when she was only 15, as well as various other crimes that were rumored for years before they were later exposed in the documentary Surviving R. Kelly in 2019. Kind of crazy SWAT managed to call out one of R. Kelly's crimes all the way back in 2005. While I may have expected that kind of sick burn coming from a Kendrick Lamar song, can't say I expected to find it hidden in a SWAT team simulator. Then again, R. Kelly showing up in a SWAT team simulator maybe isn't the biggest surprise. The writing was pretty much already on the wall. Super Mario Sunshine. Super Mario Sunshine released in 2002 as the 3D Super Mario title for the GameCube. Still waiting on one for the Switch too. In the game, Mario finally gets a chance to relax on vacation, when suddenly evil Shadow Mario shows up and makes an enormous mess. And now Mario has to clean it all up with this flood device. In the game, the Goo Mario must clean up his map to each level with bitmap files in the data of the game that designates where the goo shows up in each level. If we were to look at these bitmaps in the data, they look like random ink splatters, though a few of the unused bitmaps in the game have some unexpected surprises. Some unused bitmaps contain notes in Japanese, such as this one that says stupid. The strangest though is this pollution map, which shows a creepy face surrounded by a piranha plant and a Goomba. I assume this is a developer f***ing around, as I highly doubt this was actually once a location in the game. This face looks more like it belongs in Super Mario Nightmare. Chill. Chill is a PlayStation snowboarding game that only released in Europe in 1998. There was also supposed to be a Sega Saturn port, which the developers completed and even sent to reviewers, but for whatever reason was never released. The game didn't make much of an impression on critics or players, evidenced by the fact no one watching this video likely remembers this game. However, data miners made a discovery in the files of Chill that would have likely garnered more attention if it actually made it in the final game. As in the files, there's a cut save icon, which looks like 3 breasts stacked on top of each other, and was apparently supposed to pulsate when animated. Damn, if they went with this save icon, maybe the game should have been called No Chill, or Based. They actually said that in 1998. Road 96. Thanks to Mike and Toaster for submitting this mystery through the Oddheader website and Discord. Road 96 released in 2021, an adventure game where he plays teenage hitchhikers trying to flee the fictional country Petria, so they never have to see its authoritarian president Tyrak ever again. However, some players found themselves wanting to flee a strange discovery they made in the game instead. As in the game, you dig through a box of newspapers covering some fictional events in the game world. However, one of the photos used for these newspaper stories isn't fictional, as it's a photo of the real-life American politician R. Bud Dwyer, and it's not just any photo of the politician. The photo actually has a haunting story, as the press took the photo of Dwyer moments before he shot himself on a live TV news broadcast. The event, which shocked everyone who saw it, occurred when Dwyer arranged a press conference to read a statement about the various crimes he was accused of committing, and then did the infamous act at the end of his speech. It's unclear why this image is here and whether it was done intentionally or accidentally, but honestly, given the enormous infamy of this image, I highly doubt it was a mistake. And if it was, that is one hell of a bad mistake. Medal of Honor, Allied Assault. Thanks to BUTTERDOGESTARWARS for submitting this mystery on the Oddheader Discord. Allied Assault released in 2002, known for recreating many scenes from the movie Saving Private Ryan in its depiction of World War II. However, Allied Assault differs from Saving Private Ryan in a number of ways, such as this Easter egg players can find of German soldiers dancing and doing backflips if you look at them through this window and press the use key. Not sure that's accurate to World War II. However, another discovery was made that may also not be accurate to World War II, as BUTTERDOGESTARWARS found this horrifying face in the data. BUTTERDOGE believes the image could be used as a reflection texture in the game. While it's unclear what exactly in the game this texture is used to reflect, it seems to reflect the sort of thing I've only seen in nightmares. Neopia Studio. Neopia Studio is a Match 3 mobile game that had a beta release in 2022, which was going to take place in the Neopets universe with a story about reviving an abandoned movie studio in a small town. Only thing is, Neopets fans apparently hated the beta so much, Neopia Studio's full release was cancelled and turned into a different game. Looking at the game's cutscenes on the Internet Archive, the game appears to be pretty kid-friendly, but not if you look in the files of the game, as there were apparently extremely detailed textures of what appears to be a nude woman with full anatomy in the nether regions. What kind of movie studio were we supposed to be running here? The game then turned into Neopets Fairy's Hope, which eventually rebranded again to Fairy Fragments, which is the current mobile game that's out now. Well, hopefully those textures of this woman were removed when the game turned into Fairy Fragments, as I'm not sure what they were doing in the Neopets game to begin with. Is this what they were talking about when they said Fairy Fragments? Skullgirls. Skullgirls is a fighting game from 2012 known for its unique art style, as well as one of the most unique anti-piracy measures in gaming, as after beating the story mode, some players reported seeing the message, "What is the square root of a fish? Now I'm sad." This caused players to reach out to the game's Twitter page to ask what the strange message meant, and Skullgirls responded that it meant that they should buy a copy of the game instead of pirating it, as apparently the message was only supposed to trigger if the game detected piracy. Well, that's embarrassing. However, this anti-piracy trap isn't the only thing in Skullgirls that has left the players who saw it scratching their heads, as data miners found an unused test level background in the files of the game. The test level background looks like a pretty rough sketch of an environment and some random assets, including what appears to be actual writing on the says Test Poo version 1.0. 1.0? Were they planning other versions of this? And what were they testing exactly? You know what? I don't want to know. I guess one possible explanation is the is here to test if anyone data mined the game's going to ask about it. And if that's the case, the test appears to be working, because here I am asking what this is doing here. Burnout Revenge. Thanks to Shad for submitting this discovery on the Oddheader Discord. Burnout Revenge released in 2005, a part of my favorite racing series of all time, known for its emphasis on intense speed and explosive vehicle destruction. Despite the many innocent lives lost in a game about crashing cars and throwing as many drivers off the road as possible, ESRB rated the game E10+, ultimately finding nothing too inappropriate for younger audiences. Or so the ESRB thought, as Shad was looking at the files of the Xbox 360 version of the game when they they found some newspaper textures that surprised them. The newspaper textures look like they could have been taken from actual newspapers throughout history, such as this one about the US president meeting Winston Churchill. One texture though seems a bit inappropriate for the game, which appears to be a newspaper clipping about a public lynch that happened in California in 1933, where a mob broke into the jail, holding two men suspected of killing a beloved member of their community, and then killed them in retaliation. The newspaper texture even includes a photo of the event which shows their hanging bodies. Granted, you move through this game so fast you wouldn't be likely to see it even if it was somewhere in the game, but of all the images they could have used, why the hell did they use this? Wow, I get this game is called Burnout Revenge, but damn, I don't think that's the kind of revenge anyone was expecting. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, and if you know of any other hidden images in video games that you think I missed, submit through Oddheader.com, come join the Discord, or even send me a shout through Twitter or Reddit. Shout out to Aaron Johnston, Angel the Fox, Ash Photography, BitWiff27, Black EV50, Chad Biscuits, Eddie Talkspin the Bleach Primid, Flex, Jailbreak, Isaac Murillo, Kieran Bolton, The Meatly, Phoenix157, Rackman22, Riley S, Robert Eisenman, Select, Subrock, and Terrence Stock for their Patreon support. Stay tuned.